Hey there, folks. Welcome to the stream. We're going to be doing a bit of a double stream today. Well, we're doing a double stream today. We're going to be playing Ace Attorney first. We'll see how episode 4 starts playing out. Then, shortly after that, we're going to proceed into Observation Duty 6. The developers for that are pretty steadily releasing new versions. We're seeing improvements in each one. We're seeing some experimentation in them. Hopefully, we will not see a dip into the sort of content that was in 2. If that happens, the stream will end abruptly and will vanish from existence. And then we'll do something else. But yeah, let's check in with the kitties first. We have Sky in the upper left, in his preferred spot. We have Ember left side, snoozing on the pillow. Hey there, King. Trying to get the sleep schedule back in order, so this early stream I think was a good forcing function. Doing well. Cats have been active this morning. Sammy was demanding attention from me earlier, and she did not get a sufficient amount, so sort of bear trapped my arm until I gave her some more pets. Let's see. I think that's Sherbet in Mason and Mason bottom center. Let's look. Looks like they're almost stacked. Yeah, that's both of them. From this angle, you can see the window well a little more. Sometimes little critters get down in there, and so they watch and sometimes jump behind the window to try to look closer. I've seen folks build aquariums like that. Hey there, is it Issa? I've encountered somebody with the with the name with Mahmood. I think it's Mahmood. But yes, kitty cats. We can see 4 of them right now. Like, can we spot Sammy? Sometimes she's kind of stealthy. The tan ones are Mason and Sherbet. I think we can. Yeah. If you look really closely, I do. What was it? I'm a kitty cat, and what was it? It was Dance, 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 and I can't remember. It's a cat, a kitty cat, and I dance, 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 and something else. And then it would loop. Oh, okay. No, I met somebody with that last name. But I'm not sure if I've got the name correctly. They're the other person in chat. I try to get the names close. If for no other reason than they know that I'm trying to speak to them. But if you look top center of this camera, just a little right of the yellow blanket or the tan blanket, there is a crease in the blanket, and then a little to the right of that, you can see another like darker black spot. That is not another crease in the blanket. That is Sammy's tail. You can see it move a little bit now and then. But yes, there are 5 kitties. Upper left is Sky, left center is Ember, most visible, and then we can see Sammy's tail. Sammy's a little tuxedo. And then bottom center, you can see Mason currently. And I think Sherbet might still be behind the curtain. There's such a narrow ledge there, but as they are cats, they can balance on that kind of thing. Let's see. Let's focus Ember because she's very clearly there. Zoom back in. So yeah, double feature today. This stream will end no later than 3:30. Gives us plenty of time. 3:30 my time. So no later than 4 hours from now. Because then we will be after a short delay. Well, might be a little later. 4 hours. Indecisiveness. But at 4, we will be doing I'm on Observation Duty 6. Completely different game than Ace Attorney. Can be a little spooky. But I like that now and again. So let's see. Yes. So Ace Attorney, we're dropping into the right at the beginning of episode 4. This is a narrative-heavy game. Observation Duty isn't. That one requires a little bit more focus, but that one has a lot more opportunities for you guys to play along in a way. But if you have any questions or want to chat a little bit, we can always do something like pause and handle that. So with that said, let's hop on in. There's some buttons here. Twisted Karma and His Last Bow.
Pipe in hand, Sholmes looked down at the thick, rolling fog outside our window. I wonder exactly how many mysteries are out there, hidden within this bed of fog, he said. Indeed, a most bizarre incident, born of a curious advertisement. A hellhound's mad gallop through the shadows of a serial murder. An executed man's graveyard resurrection in the dead of night. And a commonplace killing in a small, forgotten room at the edge of town. There is, naturally, always another side to every case, of which most remain ignorant. And it is that other side which compels me to the scene of the crime, Wilson. So quickly now, take your hat and let's be on our way, my dear fellow.
I wonder if we're finally going to get to the Hound of the Baskervilles.
Come, the game is afoot.
At the very least, we've got another reference to it with the Hellhound. So first we had a reference to the actual story, then we found the collar, and now the opening segment references it even more strongly. 8 days after the earth-shattering trial in Kazuma regaining his memory, we were in the foyer of one of London's most luxurious hotels, the Great Waterloo Hotel. But I had forgotten. In any event, Isa, welcome to the channel. Professor Mikotoba is due to arrive at any moment. So I'm so glad we got here in time. Professor Mikotoba is her father. She is Susato Mikotoba. Mikotoba Susato. Susato hasn't been the same since what happened. Not that I'm surprised. Truth about Kazuma's father. Kazuma was supposedly killed at the beginning of... at sort of an investigation phase tutorial at the start of the game. We had... the start of the game begins with the classic tutorial trial, start of game 1. So you go up against Prosecutor Ouchi. But then there was some regular investigation, like during the trial, some like messing with evidence. But it wasn't until after that that we got the learn how to investigate the scene portion. And the investigation centered around Kazuma having been killed, supposedly. Hey there, Kendra. Welcome. Joining us for some Ace Attorney, huh? And kitty cats. Saying, Ember is visible on the pillow right there, but if you look really closely, you can see the tip of Sammy's tail at the top of the camera. I was just giving a plot synopsis here. The game has taken another really twisty soap opera turn. So very early in the first game, we were presented with the idea that the childhood friend character Kazuma was killed. Accidentally. That the boat made a sudden stop, he fell and smacked his head on a bedpost and died. And some people changed the scene to try to protect somebody because they didn't want to be accused of murder. Stuff happened. And now, in the second game, sometime after, we discovered the amnesiac assistant of the standard prosecutor of the game reminded them of Kazuma. And in the end of the last trial, we discovered that that assistant was in fact Kazuma, for sure. And he regained his memory when the identity of a famous serial killer was revealed to be one of the early emissaries of Japan who came over to the UK, Britain, came over to study law, but went on a murdering rampage, essentially, and was tried in secret, put in an iron mask, and executed, again, in secret, because the government did not want there to be any trouble with the treaties caused by the fact that one of the Japanese emissaries had done the murder. So here we are now. It's all been very, very dramatic. Do you suppose my father knew that he was actually the mass murderer, the professor, you mean? I knew that's what she was thinking about. There's a good chance, I'd say. I mean, they did come here to London together 16 years ago, didn't they? How are you doing today, Kendra? I know on the Discord, I had been giving an indication of how my morning was going. Yes, that's true. Come to think of it, didn't you say that Professor Mikotoba knew about Kazuma going missing in Hong Kong as well? Kazuma's body was routed to Hong Kong instead of Britain off of the Russian ship that we were traveling on, with the idea that it would then be routed back to Japan for burial. But, for whatever reason, Susato tried to check the grave that he was supposedly buried in and did not find his body, and it turns out that when it went to Hong Kong, it went missing. More soap opera drama. Yeah, I tend to work on my schedule mostly on Mondays, since I've been trying out doing video schedules. I don't know how well that's working, but people seem to notice them. And I don't want to do more recording after I do my stream. It also gives me an opportunity to review the whole week more clearly. This coming schedule will be interesting because we'll have to account for the collaboration that's going to be on Saturday. For you folks that might not be aware, we're planning a much longer and more involved stream for next Saturday. We'll be playing a lot of different games with a lot of other VTubers, if things go well. So look forward to it. That's right, but for some reason he wasn't at liberty to talk to me about it. That probably means he knows then, about Kazuma showing up here in London with amnesia and that he's regained his memory now. Ah, there she is. Oh, okay. So, in British attire, or at least Western style attire, the one on the right is her father, Professor Mikotoba. Can't remember what his given name is. And then the one on the left, who I forget the name of, is the judge from the trials in Japan. I believe these two are of the other two of the trio with Kazuma's father that initially came to the UK to study. The judge makes an imposing figure, does he not? At the end of the second tutorial trial in Japan, where Susato was posing as a man so that she could act as the defense lawyer in a trial of her friend, we discovered that both Susato, we got a demonstration of Susato's martial arts that she frequently uses on Ryunosuke, like sends him spinning into the air kind of thing. That her friend also has that capability, and they both did that to a witness that got violent. Then subsequently, when that witness rushed into the defense room after the trial, the witness who did the actual killing, the judge showed that he has an even better version of that, or at least showed that he has the same version of that, And we got to actually see the guy sail through the air and got to see him land. And he landed like, if you get hit really hard in the Monster Hunter games, you tend to go flying into the air and then you land on your head. Like you arc down and land vertically on your head. And there's this terrible crunching sound. Uh, it sounds like your whole spine had to be broken. And this guy landed in the same way. Like there is a noticeable thud. Uh, so my speculation at the time is that the judge just executed somebody out in the defense's chamber. Um, but his build here and his pose emphasizes, oh, he'd be capable of that. Oh, father. Hello, Susato. How are you? Are, are they hiding a person in their luggage as well? That's how Ryunosuke managed to get on the boat. Is Kazuma hid him in his luggage. And then in a wardrobe after that. I'm very well, thank you. We're delighted you've arrived safe and sound. Hello, Mr. Naruhodo. Very kind of you to take the trouble to meet us here. Oh, no, not at all. It's my pleasure. We've heard all about your extraordinary exploits here in London, you know. The news has crossed the seas. Yep, Kendra. It definitely does. Well, that's my understanding as well, I should say. Um, a lot of Western traditions become, or at least visual Western traditions do become fashionable. Both there are some expectations that it was a fashionable thing. It is new and interesting. But additionally, there are some things of it being kind of asserted on the culture. That you would have people coming over there in that attire with the expectation that they would be greeted by similar norms of interaction and behavior. We actually get a lot of these kind of things demonstrated in the game. So some of the exoticism that you get out of this kind of cultural exchange in these time periods, and I mean even in modern day that happens, we do see that happening here, where it's like, this is strange and different. It has. I always look forward to reading the monthly reports that arrive with the steamships from Britain. Oh, I see. Well, thank you very much. Who is this man? And why do I feel as though I've seen him before? We don't normally get this sort of friendly expression from the judge characters. Sometimes we get a dumbfounded expression or an angry expression. I take it from your expression that you can't quite place me. In that case, how about a little reminder? So, say Shiro. Okay. A firm tap should do it. Uh-oh. Yes. A firm tap. Here we go, then. Is he going to replicate Gavel? Yep. I hereby pronounce the defendant, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. So the regular judges, both in the modern games and in this game set in the past, do not have this threatening gesture. It's normally you get the, hey, if you don't shape up, there'll be penalties, or I'm about to close out the case. In the Japanese courtroom, the judge also has this very menacing gesture, like, if you don't behave, I'm about to bring this down on you. Guilty. Ah. Oh. You're... Such a formal outfit. Court will now hear the trial of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. As far as the first game, he presided over a murder trial in which Ryunosuke was accused. Your Excellency. Hello. Oh man, Judge Jigoku. How are you? It's been a while. There's a hearty laugh. Good, you've remembered now. That really did the trick. Guilty. Only I was declared not guilty, wasn't I? And there was no laughing at the time. It is. That is a carefully groomed beard, isn't it, casemate? Also, hello, casemate. Welcome. That is the sort of beard you've got to work on. That's some bonsai level careful grooming. If it were a high fantasy setting, that's a dwarven beard, you know? Make it a little longer, add some jewelry to it. So, London again after all this time. Hard to believe it's been 10 years. To be honest, I never thought I'd be back. We're just getting into it. I've spent some time doing a plot reminder or summary for any folks that haven't seen it. Oh, and Sammy has fully shown herself now. You can see it's bath time in the lower left corner there. Neither did I. I didn't imagine Japan would ever be invited to an international symposium like this. They're here for a forensic science symposium. Though really, I doubt anyone did, to be honest. It's all thanks to you, isn't it, Seishiro? What are you talking about, Eugen? Okay, his given name is Eugen. Okay. Of course, Judge Jigoku. He must complete the set. He's the other man who 16 years ago came to London with Kazuma's father and Professor Mikotoba. He's the third visiting scholar. All those passport checks and luggage searches at the border took rather a lot of time. I must say I'm very envious of your ministerial status. You didn't have to go through any of that, did you? I knew you were jealous. Is another marker of the times how the collar isn't turned down over the tie. It's worn kind of up and is kind of squeezed by the tie to tilt out there. Sorry, ministerial status? Didn't you know? Seishiro here is also Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. It was his personal insistence that allowed you to take Kazuma's place here on this study tour. Guilty is charged. Oh. Well, thank you very much. It's really every bit as important as he looks. Yes, now Naruhodo. I received a telegram from Lord Strongheart yesterday. Oh, you did? It appears that some things came to light in a trial you were involved with 8 days ago. About what happened 10 years ago. That tragedy. Yes, could you tell us any more about it? So how was the voyage here? Well, 50 days at sea is a long time by anyone's standards. It wasn't as bad as when we first came 16 years ago. No, that's true. Then I truly wondered if we wouldn't be drifting in the vast ocean for the rest of our lives. This time we followed the same route as you, so we were able to relax and enjoy the experience. Ah, so you stopped in France's beautiful capital, Paris. We did, yes, though only for one night. And yesterday evening we left the port of Dunkirk for Dover. Just in time for the symposium, in fact. It starts tomorrow. It's wonderful that you were invited to attend such an important international event. I'm very proud of you, Father. It's thanks to Seishiro here. 16 years ago, he managed to ingratiate himself with Britain's Attorney General. I'm sure that's why he was invited, and I suppose you could say I'm something of an appendage by default. Huh. I mean, the statement makes sense, but it's not one that you would expect. Speak for yourself, Eugen. We were close friends with the professor of forensic science at a major hospital. You were. Yes, well, I'd rather not dredge all that up, really. No, there's been a lot of water under the bridge since then, but it doesn't bring him back. Kazuma's father, I suppose. How's your day been, casemate? The professor, the killer who took the lives of 5 members of the British aristocracy, was actually Kazuma's father, wasn't he? That's correct. Correct. Genshin Asogi. Genshin. A term that has taken on its own meaning for a good bit now. You knew, I presume, Father? In this case, Kendra, Genshin's impact. Or perhaps the impact of Genshin. I'm not familiar with Barbara Koa. Was that, casemate? You knew, I presume, Father? Yes, he was a close friend at the time. Genshin came to Britain as a police detective. He was studying investigative techniques at Scotland Yard. I suspect that the Genshin Impact references will be able to flow during this one. I've never understood what drove the man to commit such heinous acts. It was a closed trial, so the public never knew the truth, and he was executed with little ado. Beef tongue, huh? Never had that. To this day, very few people know what really happened, even in our homeland. But what about Kazuma? Did he know? Did he know the truth about his father? No, of course not. He was told his father passed from sickness. Cough is a little worse this morning. At least unusually worse. However, I suspect he may have had his doubts. Oh, why? As you know, I tried to guide Kazuma growing up, as if he were my own son. Huh. There are a lot of meat, let's say animal parts that in some areas in cultures, and pieces of cultures, don't show up as frequently as others. Then one day he came to my office at the university and said, "I've decided I want to travel to Great Britain and study there." Do you think he wanted to come here to investigate his father's death? I don't know. But when I looked into his eyes, I did know that there was no way I'd be able to stop him. Something else came to light in that trial the other day, actually. Oh, what? Well, having disappeared in Hong Kong and been missing for almost a year, Kazuma's since turned up here in London, working as the apprentice of Lord Von Zeitz. What? That's news to us. So, Lord Strongheart's telegram neglected to mention that part then. As you know, we both thought Kazuma had died on the steamship during our voyage to Great Britain in January. Hey there, Okami. Yep, we're doing an early stream for Ace Attorney today. That will end before the normal stream time. And then we'll proceed into a game called I'm on Observation Duty 6. We played the earlier ones up through 5. Did we ever get to 5? I don't recall exactly if we got to 5, but a new one dropped recently, and it looks like the quality has stepped up yet another notch, so we're going to take a look at that. But welcome, good to see you again. As you know, we both thought Kazuma had died on the steamship during our voyage to Great Britain in January. But he didn't die, he's alive. As you knew, didn't you, Father? In actual fact, no. What I did know is that when your ship docked in Hong Kong, he mysteriously vanished. We sent a team of investigators to Hong Kong to try and ascertain what happened, but to no avail. Yep, Ace Attorney is very narrative. So like I've said, feel free to chat. I have plenty of time, like I'm doing right now, between lines. Observation duty gives me less time, except between attempts, in order to chat with folks. But that one has more opportunities for audience participation, because it is like the title implies, it's an observation game. You have to spot the differences, and sometimes they're very subtle. But he's still alive? And here in London, you say? I never dared even to dream it. Why on earth did the young man not make contact? The government and the police have been chasing clues fruitlessly for months now. Well, it seems that he was suffering from amnesia. Narrative amnesia. What? Amnesia? When we first came across him again here in London, he didn't know who either of us were. I see. He only regained his memory 8 days ago. This is unbelievable. Yes, it's quite miraculous. I wonder why Lord Strongheart didn't let us know. I must speak with him urgently. Kitties have been doing good, Okami. Let's see. Sherbet has been getting increasingly social. It's taken him a bit, and he's still skittish if you're walking around him. He doesn't like it as much if you are standing over him. If you lean down to pet him, it can startle him. But he's much more prone to walking near you and requesting attention. He'll chirp at you to get attention. And will sit there to get scratches and whatnot. He's even gone, like, he's jumped on the back of my chair a couple of times, or semi-frequently, and lets me scratch his back as he's transitioning to another spot. He'll sit there for a moment before he moves along. But recently, he actually crawled down onto my lap to let the pettings continue. So that's good. The skittishness is something that may be with the cat indefinitely. It can just be a personality thing that they're not like super gregarious. But it's something that cats can learn, is that they can get attention, they can get pets and whatnot if they come to you for it. And they like that. Cats are more sociable than they're given credit for. So they do enjoy getting that attention and socializing. It's just that how they socialize can look really different. A cat being near you, like present when you're around and not hiding, can be a good sign that they're socializing, like that they like you. I think, let's check real quick. I think those two are still looking out the window. Let's check. Nope, they are not. I think Sherbet might have holed up in his little roost there. Yeah, Sherbet's napping in his little hut there. It's always cute when you see like animals that are unrelated latching on to a level like a younger animal, or like completely different species getting along with each other. Like I've seen videos of a cat that kind of acts as a mother duck. Like she kept them, like would herd them around and like get them back into the group, that kind of thing. Hey there, Levi. Welcome. Doing some Ace Attorney in the morning, and then observation duty later today. Wonder how Cosmo's been these past few days. Would it be wrong of us to go and visit him? That began 16 years ago now. It's a distant memory, really. It was Eugen here, Genshin Asogi, and myself. We were the original three. The first judicial scholars from Japan to travel overseas to study. Ocean voyages were not what they are today, I can tell you. 16 years ago, things were tough for their generation. Your father was an exceptionally fine medical student at Yume University at the time, you know, young lady. Yes, grandmother told me. 16 years ago was around her birth. And the way they described it, shortly after she was born was when her father went over to the UK to study. Almost immediately. So it wasn't until he came back from that trip that he essentially first met her. He went to do research at the Great London Hospital to study autopsy, practically unheard of in Japan. Yes, it was an eerie place, sandwiched between the back of a prison and a burial ground. Not more talk of graves. Very often there's no one willing to deal with bodies following autopsy work. So you see, autopsy labs have something of an unavoidable relationship with graveyards and prisons. Not my cup of tea at all. Ryunosuke has demonstrated that he's pretty squeamish when it comes to anything like really... Like, the autopsy lab clearly bothered him, but like really gruesome stuff in general. Not even like horror movie gruesome. Is something that he very actively like tries to mentally block out. Not my cup of tea at all. Was it when he was looking up at the specimen jars in an autopsy lab? He was like, oh yes, those shapes must be things that they're pickling, like how we pickle these things. You know, yes, definitely pickles. And Susato mentioned, I think those are laboratory specimens. And he was saying something along the lines of, I know, that is definitely what they are. But until you mentioned that, I was able to block that out. Thank you. Like several times in that room when it was like taxidermied animals, sample jars, those kind of things, he would say something that implied that he was coming up with even a unlikely explanation so that he would not have to admit what it really was. Like the taxidermied animals that, I was wondering if they were sleeping or something. You know, sleeping with their eyes open. And no, I think those are taxidermied. I know. I just wanted to convince myself that they weren't. I think at one point he actually does say, that is how I cope with this. Do you remember that Scottish prison governor? Caden, his name was. He was a good man. Yes, but then of course in our 6th year here, everything changed with that dreadful case. when Genshin was arrested for a series of the most gruesome murders. I simply couldn't believe it. I'd known the man for years. I was a witness at the secret hearing, and I tried to speak in his defense, but you went a little too far and ended up facing charges yourself, didn't you? Well, suffice to say that after that trial, we were sent back to Japan. There was nothing more we could do to save Genshin. It was a lost cause, sadly. Well, if you'll excuse us now. Yes, I'd like to get this trunk up to my room as soon as possible. Oh, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have held you up here for so long. I'll call for a porter then. Just wait here. Susato's gone off at a run. I'd like to stay and talk more, but I do have various preparations to make for tomorrow. Yes, of course. It must be a big responsibility representing our entire country. I wish you the best of luck. Naruhodo. I hope you'll keep an eye on Susato for me. Keep looking after her as you obviously have been. Oh no, I mean, if anyone's looking after anyone, it's her looking after me. Well, I do appreciate you being there for her. After all, I've been a miserable father to her. I've thoroughly let her down. I'd like to argue because he's definitely been like an inspiration to her and the like, but still my daughter was born, time to go study abroad for 6 years. Makes that troublesome. But it does seem like their relationship patched right up after that. Sorry, what do you mean? Well, it was 16 years ago that I started my long study tour here in Britain, as you know. The very year Susato was born. Yeah, I heard. The birth of my daughter was the most joyous event of my life, but... well, sadly, it was accompanied by the most tragic event of my life, too. Oh yes, Susato hinted at something like that. It was a rather turbulent time at home. If I had to guess, the explicit statement then is going to be that her mother died in childbirth, since she was cared for by her grandmother for that period. Anyway, I won't bore you with the details. The point is, I became rather less dependable than befits a grown man. And it was then that Seishiro offered me the opportunity to study here in Great Britain. I was too worried about you to leave you behind. So perhaps I was a little heavy-handed when it came to persuading you to accompany me to London. So that's what happened in a nutshell. And that's also the reason why I now feel compelled to give my daughter as many opportunities as I dare. Though the world really does not readily afford young women such things, I must say. I completely understand, Professor. One other thing, Naruhodo. If I may be so bold, I have a favor to ask of you. Oh, really? Of course. What can I do for you? Well, the thing is, I'm so sorry that took so long. Hey, she went to get a porter. That is if I recall, that's the head of one of the carriage companies in London. Though they have commented on reusing character models, he's in the same outfit, except for the camera. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that took so long. Miss Susato. Now then, allow us to take your bags. Allow me to take your bags. One moment, if you please, Porter. Of course, sir. That machine around your neck. It's a camera, I believe. Quite right, sir. Just 5 shillings for a lovely photograph to commemorate a wonderful stay at the hotel, sir. Well, I think given the occasion, we could justify the expense. Ah, yes, of course. I'd like to thank you for coming with me, Mr. Naruhodo. It really made Father very happy, I think. Well, I'm pleased then. But we were interrupted before. Professor Mikotoba was about to ask me something. Shall we return to Baker Street then? I expect Iris will have some delicious tea waiting for us. Yes, let's go. I'm getting more and more anxious about Kazuma, though. Perhaps I'll try to meet with Lord Strongheart later and ask after him. That's some very accented stuff going on. It almost looks like squealing, you know? What was that? A man screaming in a most unflattering way. Do you think? Could it have been Mr. Sholmes? My, I hope not. I don't do it anymore. Mon ami, mon ami. Stop this disgraceful display, huh? Who are these people? Look at their hair, it's bright red. That was something that showed up in the opening animation, the little movie at the start of episode 4, was a scene with a whole bunch of people with clearly called out red hair, despite the fact that it was, you know, generally black line drawings with some hatching and kind of darkened segments. Like, it was definitely that red-orange that they used for their hair. But their hair, it's bright red. I think they must be clients of Mr. Sholmes. Right, you two, you're coming with me now. Down to the clink. Oh, not in prison. It is damp and dark and damp, and I don't like it. I don't like it. Boff, the darkness, it is my friend. I am not scared. But you are always scared of the dark. Shut your mouth, you idiot. I will sit quietly in the dark and plan our next daring heist. I don't like this. I don't like it. Well, tough. We'll finish this down the yard. Now get moving. Bye then, Ginny. Have fun. Yeah, thanks, Iris. And thanks, you great detective. Well, that was a thing. Well, we've still got Sammy on camera. He's all cozy. Gina makes a fine detective herself, doesn't she? Oh, Susie and Bruno. Hello, Iris. We're home. Well, did you find your daddy? Oh, modern interpretation of that phrase. Universally troubling. It has become a word that is difficult to use in a sentence without making it have a different tone. Like, it's the opposite of that you must be this tall to ride this ride. It is you must be this young to use that word. Yes, we arrived at the hotel just before he and his friend. Well, that's great news. I hope I'll get to see... Oh, now I can't help but notice. I hope I'll get to see my daddy again soon. Ah, yes, of course. That first murder trial, her father was shot to death. Dr. John H. Wilson. That is correct, Okami. So, Iris, all that remains now is that greatest of problems known to man. Ah! That's... He dyed his hair red, but he seems to have taken redhead very literally. As far as hair color. Because that is red. But before we concern ourselves with that, I believe some tea is in order, don't you, my dear fellows? Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Do I have a crumb or such like on my face? Not so much on your face as on your head, I'd say. Come along then, everyone. I've brewed a lovely special blend. Time for tea. Whatever is going on here today? In that case, let us sit and drink now. For I am, in fact, expecting a guest later today. Just rummage around here a moment. Right, Okami. I've run into similar problems with Sky. He has one mode where he wants attention. He wants intensive ear scratches, like, that whole contort the torso and lean head into the scratches so that you can really get your fingers into their brain, But the other mode of him seeming to demand attention in the almost exact same way is that he actually wants me to add some kibble to the food tray. There is not a lot of difference in how he demands that attention, but he gets really disruptive during it. Mr. Sholmes, who were the two gentlemen that were here before? Just a pair of petty criminals, nothing of significance. Of course, they have to make a living somehow. And when the mood takes me, I'm willing to turn a blind eye to all manner of infractions. When the mood takes you? All manner of infractions? But when such fellows set their sights on Mr. Sherlock Sholmes, well, that's when their luck runs out. You were the target of a crime, Mr. Sholmes? But I quickly devised a plan to entrap them and deliver them to our young detective ally. You should have asked Gregsy to come too. We could have had an arresting tea party. I did send word, but no answer was forthcoming. That is interesting. Tobias Gregson, the actual Scotland Yard detective, Gina is his informal apprentice, essentially, had mentioned that he and Gina were taking an assignment in Paris. Well, he was, and he was taking Gina with him. So I wonder if something changed with that. It had an I need to get out of the country and I need to make sure she does too kind of vibe to it. The man is consummately in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's a word for it, I'm sure. Ah, I have it. A bungler, that's the word. It was in Venture Brothers. There is a scene where the really classic kind of adventure villain, like Johnny Quest era adventure villain kind of character, like your cartoony James Bond kind of villain, is in a like old film reel workplace video for villains, and it was something like Signs of a Bungler, and it was like this henchman seems like he's ready for action, but he is in fact a bungler. It goes through, look, his shirt is untucked, that kind of thing. Some critters do get pretty food motivated. That's sort of, swarming your feet and jumping up and down in order to get the food. It's a good job he's not here for you to say that. Here to hear you say that. So those redheads have been up to no good. I wonder what the men did. What was that about the greatest of problems known to man that you mentioned before? Is it another fiendishly intricate case, Mr. Sholmes? How should I best explain it? Are you aware of the theory of evolution? Evolution by natural selection, perchance? Mason and Sherbet are both very interested in food. Sherbet will always come running if there's kibble. Mason will be nearby. And if Sky, like I mentioned a little earlier, is acting hungry, he'll trot right over. Mason will try to get into any food that I have, like any at all. If I turn my back for a moment, he'll start licking it. Ember will lick any sort of like greasy food, like a pepperoni pizza. She'll lick at the pepperoni, that kind of stuff. All of them like treats. Sky and Sammy tend to be a little distant from them. Ember does like to get a treat now and again, but Mason and Sherbet are trouble as soon as treats are involved. Whether they're the little greenies, little catnip treats, little crunchables, but especially if it's a one that an ad for it shows up on YouTube, but I get a different brand because the different brand is available. They're like Go-Gurt tubes for cats, kind of a meat Go-Gurt. And Mason and Sherbet are crazy for those. Especially Mason. He will... Mason tries to, like, take them. So all of the other cats, when I get the opportunity to give them that treat, will daintily lick at it. Except for Sky, he doesn't lick them. But they'll just kind of lick, lick, lick as you slowly squeeze it out for them. Mason will try to put as much of it as he can get into his mouth and bite it and then squeeze it out himself. To the extent where he'll sometimes puncture the tube. Sherbet will try a little similar, but he's less aggressive about it. But the two will try to shoulder any other cat out of the way. Mason I have to pretty much restrain in order to give anybody else the treat. I have to very... No worries, King. Feel free to lurk or anything like that. Sherbet is a bit of a climber, so he knows how to get... Both of them know how to try to knock things off of shelves. And they all know what the treat box looks like. So occasionally I have seen one of the treat boxes pulled off the shelf and all like bitten up around the sides as they try to get into it. Sherbet especially is a problem solver. I have a couple of the little toys. Do I have one visible? Yeah, I've got one visible here. Let's zoom in a bit so you can see it. Scanning. So that little squarish, like rounded square clover thing there with the little nodules with holes in them, that is like a treat puzzle. Each one of those nodules can have a treat under it, and there are a series of holes that you can put flaps over. And to get the treats out of the nodules, you have to slide the nodule over a hole. So I put treats in the holes, treats in the nodules, and then I put the flaps over the holes, and you can slide the nodules against the flap so it kind of locks them. It's the more complicated one. I have a couple that are... I have another one that's very simple. They are no match for Sherbet. He will get the treats out of them almost immediately. Now, uh, one of my prior cats, my original two cats were a pair of Maine Coons, siblings, Bob and Tom. Bob was hilarious. He was big, and he was a coward. Like, everything would scare him. He was very snuggly, though. Tom outlived him for quite a bit. Tom lived to be about 14, 15. And Tom was very food motivated. He wasn't overweight, but he was pudgy. You know, he had not crossed into obese. You can see him in some of my prior videos. Big gray and black stripy guy. He would deal with those treat puzzles by essentially picking them up and flipping them over and, like, rattling the treats out. But Sherbet seems to, like, shuffle the things around and actually get the treats out that way. At least I think it's him. I haven't caught him doing it. But he's always right there when I set the puzzle down. Yeah, he did. He just forced it. But you could see he would work some elements of the puzzle, but he would also get frustrated / bored faster. Sometimes there would be treats left because he couldn't be bothered to try to get that last couple out, you know? I have sent with Sherbet there. Again, I presume it's Sherbet. With this batch, there is never a treat left in the puzzle once I've set it down. Maybe I'll have to see if I can get him on camera. That's actually a good opportunity. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to load the the puzzle up, and then we will return and see how they react to it. So just a moment, folks. shook the box, and Mason and Sherbet were immediately coming out. We can see that they're already going for it. So we can see he's dealing with the flaps on it pretty straightforward. So what they have to do is they move the flap and they can access a treat. And then if they pull the nodule over the hole where the flap was, it lets another treat drop down. And then they just need to push the little nodule out of the way to get the other treat. The simpler puzzle has a lot more pockets in it for treats, and is largely just a matter of a series of flaps and lids. Yeah, but it's definitely Sherbet disarming the whole thing. Hello, Ember. He is. I mean, he is going straight through that thing. The puzzle is no match for his hunger. Now he's double checking them all. Mason is less clever about the puzzle, you can tell. Once they figure out how to do it, they'll push right through it right away. Now I'm curious, though. Now I'm curious. I want to see him solve the other one. So once he's done with this more difficult one, I'll load up the other one. Oh, it's why I just have to have them on the stream, Levi. I am very much a cat person. Aha. I've been told, well, it's observable if I move around into other rooms, they'll kind of follow me in a swarm. He's got to make sure he didn't miss any. As you can see, he's working his way around it, getting each one of them out. It's definitely rough when that happens, Okami. Tangentially related with older pets, but also in general. Just want to call out again, it's look into pet insurance. It's something that you tend not to think about until it's too late. But just like with people, medical care for pets is very expensive, and it can help keep their health up there if something unforeseen happens, if you can afford it more easily. There are some inexpensive options out there. Even with the deductibles, it is fantastically cheaper if you have the insurance able to cover some of it. There is a decent one out there, at least in my experience. It's been really effective. Is one called Lemon. It's mostly an automated process until a bit into a claim, but they've repaid pretty much everything within the deductible, you know. Okay, it looks like they cleared that one out. So just a moment, I'll reload the other one. They get lots of treats today. Right, settling in here. Okay, this is the easiest of them. At least in my understanding, the easiest of them. There is a harder one. If you're familiar with those slide the blocks around with one open spot kind of puzzles, there's one like that. But I suspect Sherbet will tear right through this one. I think Ember has noticed. Mason creeping towards it. So each of those little red squares is a little lidded container that contains a treat. Each of the little white bones covers a treat. Once the white bone is removed, the red containers can be slid to the side as well and reveal another treat. The one problem about this toy is that the lids are a bit vulnerable to being popped off. Once they're flipped open, there's a decent chance they'll step on the lid or bump it, and it can pop loose. So far, none of them have broken, but it is part of the cleanup process to have to reassemble some of the red containers. Yeah, I'd figured that it was him, but I'd never verified. Well, now we're going to have to try the hard one after this. This is one of those things, Okami. This is another aspect with cats that people are making bad assumptions. Cats can learn on their own and be trained just about as well as dogs. They can have some difficulties with some things, but for most of the stuff that people assume only dogs can be trained to do, most cats can learn to do it too. And that's why a lot of the things that people say about those talking pet buttons, where they say like, oh, they're not really talking, those aren't really sentences. I agree, they don't speak in the same way, but they clearly convey some intent, and they convey intent. There's something they want, or there's something that they want to that they're expressing to you. It tends to be simpler, and it tends to take them a while to formulate the answer. We can see him pop open a lid there. Does make me want. I wish I could someday in the future, potentially far future, I wouldn't mind getting point to zoom cameras. So the cameras that I'm using they're able to pivot around, so I can aim them at different stuff, and I can use OBS to zoom the scene in, but it doesn't change. It doesn't affect the resolution at all. It's not an optical zoom. I'm sorry, it doesn't improve the clarity of the image. It'll get grainier and smaller. So I could zoom in mechanically. These particular cameras aren't great for it. Essentially, you can send web commands to them to force it. But if I could find a point-to-zoom camera that was, I think it's... there's a protocol that you can access via web to get a feed of the camera. So the things that you have to do to get a setup like this going is you need cameras that aren't Internet of Things BS. And that's already a difficulty. A whole lot of them are hardwired to be internet connected. I've encountered some where the camera disables itself if it doesn't have an internet connection, and if you haven't logged into that account. So, like, if you activate the camera, set up an account, and then delete the account, the camera deactivates itself. Even if the camera is entirely capable of operating without it, it demands the connection. That is really common and very frustrating. So the cameras that I've got are, like, they're on a non-internet network. I wonder if that's why Camera One has problems now and again, if it doesn't have as good a connection as the others. It's kind of weird because it has a straight shot to the router, but it is next to another camera that is a little closer to the router. So maybe there's some, like, adjacency interference kind of thing. But if I could find point-to-zoom cameras that had the same capabilities as these cameras and the same options for connecting to them, then I could improve the rig for the cameras, because then I could use them to pivot and zoom in on whatever I want. That said, point-to-zoom cameras are way more expensive than these cameras. These cameras are like $20 tops. Well, $30 tops, if I recall correctly. So definitely a nice little affordable option for my setup. I've tried many other things, and they've all had problems. See, does he have all of them? Essentially, once he's done searching, he'll start to walk away, and then we're going to rig up the complicated one. I know I said this was an Ace Attorney stream, but this is more important. We have to watch Sherbet play cat puzzles. You can see he's rechecking some of the spots. The treats that I use are catnip greenies. Greenies are a real common treat brand. But these are really fragrant. Like, really fragrant. Okay. We're switching to the most complex one. All right, this is the trickiest one. It's also the one that you can tell Tom has flipped and smashed more often. Some of the seams on the plastic on the housing of it are a bit popped. So we'll see if this one defeats it. I think it might already have. So the trick with that one is that you've got to slide the blocks. You can see the it's almost like a grid of blue boxes. You've got to slide those around. He got the one that was in the open corner already. Uh-oh. I think I know what happened. 1 minute. They noticed that I'd set down the easy puzzle. They noticed that I set down the easy puzzle and we're looking at that one too. We'll see if he comes back to this one. Yeah, he's checking all the easy puzzles. He's verifying there aren't easier to get ones. Yeah, he's by the tan one and he's like staring at me. It's to the left of this camera is the shelf where I put them. That one's on top of the shelf currently and he's just sitting right next to it staring at me. All right, let's pop into the game again. If I do hear it moving, I'll switch back over. Let's find the others real quick, though. A worthwhile distraction, I think. The cats are a critical element of the stream. Absolutely critical. They're still rooting around on the easier puzzles. Mason is like crawling into the little shelf cubicle where the easiest one is, like checking it to make sure. Part of it is because those greeny treats are kind of oily and like I said, very fragrant. So for a bit after the puzzle is used, it still smells like them. So back in we go. Are you aware of the theory of evolution by natural selection, perchance? Well, I think I've heard talk of it somewhere. Possibly. It's a revolutionary scientific theory that was newly proposed 40 years ago now. According to its author, Mr. Darwin, we humans were once apes who lived in the treetops. Wait, what? We were apes. Indeed, and from the very moment those apes descended from the canopy to live as humans, It has been our lot to be at the mercy of the greatest problem known to man. Our lot? What is this great problem, Mr. Sholmes? Why, is it not obvious, my dear madam? The problem of rent. That's exactly how it went. You know, not a, not a very gradual buildup of technology and similar as intelligence grew, but instead it was from close ape descendants immediately into, you know, privately owned rent structures. Uh-oh. Okay, he's given it a try. Let's take a look again. It might be that he doesn't have the arm strength to slide them. Oh, no, he has. He did it once. Actually, no, he's done it 3 times already. Like, he knows there's treats in there. But he's trying to work out how he's supposed to get them. Excellent. Okay, he's gotten that whole row. Uh, I think he heard something over there. Uh, if you look in the upper right, there's a little bit of like a semicircle. That's the cat tree. And he's heading through the curtain towards the bedroom. He likes his treats. Now, the question is, what did he notice? Nothing there. He's checking where the other puzzles were again. You can tell he's like, oh man, this one's hard. Is there an easier one around? Got to keep an eye on him when he wants to try to get treats. I've occasionally accidentally left the treat box open a little bit and they can smell it. But it's on a shelf. And to get to it, he has to like get on the lowest shelf, stand on his hind legs and lean back to grab the edge of the upper shelf. And then like hold with one paw while he like bats around to get it. He's he is the most acrobatic of them. Are you giving up, buddy? He's sitting behind me, staring at me right now. Hey, hey. His chirp when he wants your attention. Imagine like a squeaky wheel or something like that. Not like a hinge, but that sort of like kind of Again, kind of like a squeaky wheel, but really quiet, like really faint. That's his chirp. He's behind my head right now, so I have to get both arms up behind my head and give him maximum back scratches here. Got to be careful given how skittish he is. Like he doesn't want you to try to hold him at all. Sammy is similar but less so. Like if you try to hold Sammy, I don't mean like pick her up, but hold her still, she's done with you at that point, and as soon as she can, she'll back off and go. Like she'll start bracing herself to run. Um, and I mention that because I've managed to trim Sammy's claws, usually like 2 or 3 at a time before she squeezes loose. I have not managed that with Sherbet. So Sherbet still has his full murder mitt complement. Let's see. For me, most of them will only let me hold them if they're on my lap. If Ember comes over on my lap for pets, she demands to be held. Like she crawls up your chest and wants you to constantly pet her and hold her. If you stop for even a moment, she gets antsy. Sky, if he's sitting on your lap, he just wants you to keep stroking him, keep scratching his back. If you stop, he'll crawl up your chest and headbutt you. Tom was like, it was akin to how Sky and Ember are. He would he would want snuggles. He would crawl right up your chest. Occasionally, he would like dangle on, like climb up on my shoulder a little bit. And again, Maine Coon, going on 20 pounds. I think he was somewhere between 15 and 20. I can't remember where he ended up. Actual Maine Coons are big boys. People will often mistake Norwegian forest cats for Maine Coons. Yeah, a male Maine Coon can get big. So we can see he's drifted over to the treat box again. Let's see if he gives it another go. Forest cats are interesting. They have more nimble thumbs. A lot of many cats, their forepaws are polydactyl, so they have a thumb. Some Sometimes it ends up being called a dew claw. For forest cats, it's much more nimble. It can splay to the side a little bit, and they are known for being able to climb down a tree, like straight down, head down. Whereas most cats have to like carefully back down the tree. Like if Sherbet climbs a curtain, he very cumbersomely scales down backwards. Oh, he moved the whole row. He managed to get another one. So the question will be how long it takes him to get the hang of messing with this one. As you can see, a scratching motion is generally what they get, so they can pull a block. Uh, with dogs, they'd be more prone to snuffling at it, so they would be very likely to push at it and slide that out of the way, with some occasional scratching and like pulling at it coincidentally. He gets frustrated and he walks off, then he comes back and tries again because he smells treats. Another a fun Maine Coon fact. Maine Coon fur is often used to test pet hair oriented vacuums. They'll do it with like retrievers and the like, but also especially Maine Coon fur. They have fur that will felt up. So anything that sheds off of a Maine Coon, if you were to take their hair and like rub it between your palms, it will form a hard ball almost immediately. So a lot of vacuums that if a vacuum uses a bristle brush as one of the beaters inside of it, Maine Coon fur will defeat that within one use. The entire beater will actually get a web of felted fur all around it, and it will cease to be able to brush things. Uh, you would have to like cut it loose. That's why the ones that have like counter rotating rubber beaters in them can still use that. But yeah, even Sky, who looks similarly fluffy to how Tom was, uh, like as far as fur, it's nothing. It's still standard cat fur, so you don't have to worry that that will clump into a hard ball. Tom would lay on that basket and the second tier down, or one tier down from it. Uh, I cleaned the edges of it. The interior is harder to clean, so you can't really see it from this distance. But the entire exterior of that rectangular box, as well as the platform down, looked gray before because Tom's fur webbed it over entirely. And you needed to get like a raking metal brush to get it off of there because it would weave itself into the fibers. Strange cat facts. And while I do love the big boys as far as the kitty cats go. Uh, it can be nicer and somewhat more convenient when they're smaller. Like Ember, some of its context again, having lived with cats like Bob and Tom, uh, there are dog breeds that feel very tiny to me, like that aren't toy dogs. That's why Ember, let's see, Ember, Sherbet, and Sammy are small cats. Ember always feels tiny to me. She's smaller than all of the others. Uh, Mason Mason still shows some signs of growth. He no longer has that fully gangly limbs, but he's still got some of that. It looks like he's going to get a little bigger. Yeah, it's even the ones that I had were not as big as they could be. Their father was enormous, like twice as big as they got. the biggest I've heard of, and he did have some issues as a result of his weight. Uh, Not like obesity weight, but like strain on his hips from trying to jump around like a cat, was something like 35 pounds. He was huge. And like if Tom sat down in that box next to Sky, Sky would have some of his body obscured by Tom's fluff. Tom would take up at least 2/3 of that. Their dad was like twice that big. He would fill that entire box. And he still had like the sort of energy that you expect out of any other cat, that run around, jump around, play, just big. But yeah, the two of them inherited more of their size from their mother. But back to the game again. Ah, but did you not receive a rather large sum of money from Madame Tuspel's only the other day? Shaw. A large sum? One potted herb for Iris and a new motor car for me later, and all of it has quite disappeared, I assure you. I think it's that latter one that had the bigger impact compared to the potted herb. It wasn't a large amount of money either. I went out and bought a fancy sports car, and now it's all gone. I say fancy sports car because that's still the era when, if they're using the term motor car, then buying it at all would be expensive. Honestly, Hurley, you know you squandered it. Yes, well, anyway, 2 days ago, I discovered the answer to man's greatest problem, for the coming month at least. And what was the answer? Why, there is a substantial clue before your very eyes. Hair dye. That is the future money-making scheme of Herlock Sholmes. Cosmetics. I mean, he's demonstrated, like, fantasy-level chemistry, so that sort of vibrancy in hair dye, that for that time period, yeah, he could make some money. Hey there, Herlock. Glad you appreciate. Don't tell me. Let me see. Humans are sorry creatures, unable to see what is in front of their noses. Let me give you some assistance. Don't look, but observe me very closely. There is one particular feature about my person that has changed. You should notice it in the end, I think. In the end? It's been stabbing me in both eyes right from the very beginning of our conversation. Stabbing me in both eyes, I think, is one of the better ways to say it hurts to look at that I have seen. I feel like it's the next step up from saying, uh, you know, it was so, it looked so loud, it was deafening kind of thing. Think we might need another clue before we uncover the full answer, Mr. Naruhodo. Thanks for the hint. I'll be tearing my hair out if this charade goes on much longer. Mr. Sholmes, isn't it about time you told us the truth? Just over a week ago, you said to us, I will now tell you something of the first importance, my dear fellow. Great detectives are wont to lie. It will serve you well to remember that. That case aboard the SS Buria in January. Kazuma wasn't killed, and you knew he wasn't dead at the time. This was a point I forgot, is that Herlock Sholmes was there and is the one that declared him dead. Like, he's the one that found the body first. The fellow was unconscious for a very long time. If he hadn't regained consciousness when he did, his life would have been in mortal peril. Of course, a side effect of the prolonged comatose state was amnesia, as you know now. It was a simple enough task to silence the crew. But how? With one of the guns or the bazooka that Iris made, I expect. Had to silence them. Permanently. There are no witnesses if everybody who saw you is dead. After they'd carried him out of the cabin, I assembled them in the lobby area. Then I made them swear to leave him unconscious and have him unlaid from the ship in Hong Kong as a murdered corpse. Oh, how horrible! It was necessary to find some material with which to persuade the crewmen to keep their word, of course. But why? Why do it in the first place? I will be at liberty to elaborate in due course. Sholmes has demonstrated that blackmail is one of his problem-solving methods. But for the time being, I would like to reassure you, I didn't foresee subsequent events. What events? His disappearance in Hong Kong. This is a rare pose for him. Oh. I believe I may have made a gross error of judgment. Mr. Sholmes. Oh, this is new. But first, let's check her board. Someone had told me that this is different for every case. This blackboard is where Iris scribbles down her latest ideas, isn't it? Oh, let's see. She seems to have drawn a lot of little stick figures all lined up. Look. Cheap apples at the market. I don't think this has changed yet. What? The little figures can speak? Yeah, this one hasn't changed yet. All of your questions would be answered if only you would read this month's Ranced magazine. So I'm the only one who can't make any sense of this. A reference to the Herlock Sholmes stories that Iris publishes. Okay, the mask Cosmo wore when he was assigned to Lord Von Zeeks as his apprentice. When he cast it aside after the trial the other day, I just sort of picked it up. We ought to give it back to him, I suppose. But he has his memory back now, doesn't he? and I can't help feeling he might turn around and tell me coldly to wear it myself. But isn't he your best friend? Else. Like there's got to be something else in the room. I was always drawn to this big metal chest that Mr. Sholmes and Iris use as a coffee table. Isn't it where Iris kept her very important papers? Her father kept notes about the cases that he and Sholmes worked. And that's where Iris reads those and makes versions of them that she has published. It is, so you'd think that they'd treat it with more care, really. But only the other day, I saw Mr. Sholmes kick it. No. I suppose something must have been frustrating him. What a shame to mistreat the furniture, though. Was it damaged? The chest was fine, but Mr. Sholmes was doubled up on the floor for almost 10 minutes. Well, he did just haul off and kick an iron chest. Oh dear, that is a painful tale. This looks like last week's edition. What's that article circled in red ink there? It's an advertisement column. It says, "To the Red-Headed League." Here's the clue. The Red-Headed League? What's that? I don't know. I've never heard of it before, but... Is something on my face? Clearly this has something to do with that lively hair. An account of the bequest of the late Ezekiah Hopkins of Lebanon, PA, USA. There is now another vacancy open which entitles a member of the League to a salary of £4 a week for purely nominal services. All red-headed men who are sound in body and mind and above the age of 21 years are eligible. Apply in person on the morning of the 31st at the large park on Lime Street. Get £4 per week if you are a redhead. A most fantastic money-making opportunity. He has dyed his hair in order to try to get this job. Oops. It looks as though someone circled an advertisement in this paper, Mr. Sholmes. To the Red-Headed League. Yeah, the nominal services part feels concerning there, doesn't it, casemate? Does that strike you in some way? I was thinking that just maybe it might be related to your bright red hair. So at last you've learnt to apply my methods, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry. In the first instance, in quite indispensable, observation. Believe me, I could have seen that hair with my eyes shut. So then, allow me to regale you with the details of my latest exploits. Regale or boast? So what is the Red-Headed League, which seems to be the subject of the advertisement you've circled? You noticed it in the paper, then? That, my dear fellow, was going to be the source of this month's rent payment. It was? How? According to the advertisement, the Red-Headed League is a distinguished institution of fellows of unspecified governance. In fact, the only condition for becoming a member is having red hair. That doesn't entirely surprise me. But listen to what the lucky redheads receive once they join. An unconditional salary of £4 a week. Oh my, £4 a week? But why? What are they paying people for? That I don't know. No details are given in the advertisement. But surely every red-headed person in the country would be flocking to join in that case. You're right, Susie. There's no time to lose. I'll put in my application at once. So will I, just on the off chance. That might be stretching a point, I think. The trouble is, they have a fixed number of members, you see. Oh, I see. So once a certain number of people have joined, no one else can. But as luck would have it, one member recently passed away. It wasn't particularly lucky for the redhead in question, I feel, Mr. Sholmes. So you decided to try to join in his place. Correct. I mean, look at me. Have you ever seen such a red-headed fellow? No. So why did it have to go so wrong? What on earth happened? A blunder, Mr. Naruhodo, though it pains me to admit it. What did you actually do to your hair, Mr. Sholmes? I'm glad you asked, Miss Susato. What you see atop my head is neither dyed nor a hairpiece. I changed the color of my hair overnight by the wonders of chemistry. If it's not dye, I think chemistry, while accurate, is understating the feat that he has accomplished. If he has actually changed his hair color, Sholmes has something like CRISPR technology, you know? Chemistry? I was conducting some research into a method of rejuvenating spent tea leaves. And in the course of my work, I stumbled upon a potion that, when taken, turns one's hair a flame-like red. Would you like to try it? It will make every hair on your body perfectly crimson. It is important to note that he specifically had to call out every hair on your body. Like, it's an all-over dye job. I think I'll pass. But Mr. Sholmes, is it quite safe to drink? Surely it's bad for you, isn't it? Amateurs are always hampered by such fears. I should never have doubted you, Mr. Sholmes. You mean to say... But of course. To earn £4 a week, one must be prepared to turn a blind eye to a little danger. What's up? Why be concerned about possible death by ingesting strange chemicals when there's a salary like that on the line? This is the This is the I'm so desperate for money, let alone that much money, that I'm willing to sign up for self-medical experimentation to get it. Hand me that money and the electrodes, please. That degree of red signals more than just a little danger, surely. So anyway, Hurley left full of confidence yesterday with his new red hair. Yep. For the park on Lime Street where the Red-Headed League were interviewing prospective new members. So what went wrong? The whole park was choked with red-headed folk, like a Coster's orange barrel. Coster's orange barrel. I queued up for 8 hours solid before at last I reached the front. But when the panel of interviewers saw me, they immediately said, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, are you in disguise to conduct an investigation? I had not foreseen this possibility, that my highly recognizable self would be highly recognized. So naturally I had no choice but to reply, "Don't give me away." After which I could do little else but turn and leave. Then this morning when I looked in the mirror, irritation stirred within me. So I turned that pair into the police. It circled back around to the fact that normally he would not have turned them into the police, but he was so upset about having his scheme fall out from under him, and that his hair was still red after having tried it, that he did turn them in. They have established he is prone to, like, lashing out. Dear, what a disaster for Hurley and those two redheads. Mr. Sholmes, you mentioned before that you were expecting a guest today? Indeed, Miss Susato, that is correct. Not another of those red-headed gentlemen that were here before. Not at all. They were petty villains. The guest I am expecting is a client. Oh? A young gentlewoman who wishes to appoint the services of this great detective, no less. Oh, wonderful, Mr. Sholmes. You must stay and observe the fashion in which a great detective receives his customers. Uh-oh. Must we? I have you in my clutches now, Rent, just as I have you in my clutches, redheads. That hearty laugh is masking rather sinister thoughts, I feel. My scheme didn't work, so all people in red hair are now my targets. You know, the lady isn't due for another hour yet. I don't feel as though you must wait around if you have other things to do. Von Zeke's talking with Strongheart. Here's the final draft of the opening address for tomorrow's proceedings. I've supplemented your original with the figures you asked for from the yard. I see. Excellent work. Thank you. You're welcome, my lord. What's Lord Von Zeke's doing here? There would seem to be an awful lot of tension in the air, wouldn't you say? This place is stifling enough as it is. We really don't need any more tension. My apologies. I didn't notice you come in. Your small stature and dark dress make you all but invisible to me. As a very polite dig at Naruhodo's appearance in multiple ways. I'm sorry, I didn't notice you. You're dressed shabbily, and you are short. Oh no, it's entirely my fault for wearing black, I'm sure. From now on you must dress in white from head to toe whenever you come here. Get that Japanese naval officer vibe, you know? Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, my lord, I'm right here. Kill me now. Awkward pause. Is something wrong? Perhaps it's a little too hot in here for you. No, not at all. I mean, I've never experienced a room at such a perfect temperature. If you're sure, the beads of sweat carving their way down your face seem to suggest otherwise. Because of the daggers you're staring at me with, mainly. As you're no doubt aware, my International Forensic Science Symposium begins tomorrow. In fact, your father arrived in London earlier today, I hear, madam. Oh, yes, that's right, my lord. He's extremely honored to have been invited. I'll leave the remaining preparations for the meeting room in your capable hands, then, Lord Von Zeeks. I will attend at once. Gave you a very cold stare as he left, didn't he? I know, but I haven't done anything, have I? These past few days, my feet have barely touched the ground, I must say. My dedicated right hand of many years was recently put out of action in spectacular fashion. I'm sorry to hear that. Is your left hand still of service? Wah, wah. Mr. Naruhodo, he's talking about Dr. Scythe. Ah, of course. I'm terribly sorry about that. It was just, fear not, you've done nothing wrong. Dr. Scythe's own wrongdoings precipitated this situation. I was playing a game recently, and in a science lab, there was a poster on the wall. And I think I've seen this joke in chemistry labs, science labs, in the past, in real life. It was, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the precipitate. Or precipitate. Quality chemistry humor. You needn't concern yourself with it any further. It would be a lot easier to do if it weren't for the piercing stare you're giving me. You don't need to worry about it anymore, even though it's completely your fault and it has greatly inconvenienced me and made me look bad at an international level. Don't worry about it. As he's, holding his cane shakingly in front of your nose. Lord von Zeeks is doing an admirable job of holding the fort. Though disturbingly, his apprentice has been missing since yesterday. Oh, missing? What's become of Kazuma now? Not long ago, visitor numbers in the Great Exhibition exceeded 30 million. Oof. 30 million? Are there even that many people in the world? As a comparison, Mr. Naruhodo, the population of the imperial capital of Tokyo is 2 million. I will be opening the International Forensic Science Symposium in the exhibition's main auditorium. This event has been 2 years in the making, 2 years of preparation and negotiations with other countries. It sounds like a tremendous achievement. Congratulations. The 20th century will see the wholesale adoption of forensic investigation techniques. And cooperation between policing organizations around the globe will be essential. Which is why the landmark first symposium had to be hosted here at the heart of our great British Empire, in order that Scotland Yard can become the leading investigative organization in the New World. He's the same as ever, I see. That passion of his is quite something. Adjusting chair. You're every bit as passionate in your own way, I'm sure, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm the only person in this country who truly cares about a future that embraces forensic science. It was my intention to become Her Majesty's Attorney General and reform the Yard from the ground up. So the disgrace of the forensic investigation team has been a bitter blow to my ambitions. Bit of a tongue twister. Bitter blow in ambitions. I first established the forensic investigation team a year ago, experimentally to start with. With Dr. Syed at the helm, it was steadily accruing an impressive record of achievement. I was on the verge of changing its name and elevating its status to a full-blown forensic investigation department. Can you not do that now? Obviously, nobody wants to hear anything about it at the moment. Even I can't keep this story out of the papers. 6 million Londoners will be cursing forensic science now. This incident will set back our country's advancement in the field by a good 10 years, I'd say. But don't worry about the fact that you were the cause of this incident. Don't worry about that at all. I will hold no grudges. You've only destroyed a significant ambition in my life. Unintended repercussions of our trial. We simply couldn't have overlooked what had happened, though. Of course not. We should all be grateful to both of you. Anyway, I'll still reform this country's policing when I become Attorney General. This might delay my plans, but it won't alter them. Nothing will stand in my way. They do a good job presenting Strongheart as a truly driven individual. The idea that this is a serious blow to his plan. Like, public opinion will be against one of his core plans here. But that's not a problem. It's given time, he's certain that he can make up for that. And that it's the result he wants is still inevitable. And he's fine with that. Like, he would prefer that he not be delayed, but he doesn't care if there is a delay. About Lord von Zeke's apprentice. Ah yes, that came as a surprise to me, I must say, that you and he are old friends. How did he become an apprentice to Lord von Zeke's in the first place? It came about 3 months ago. An unidentified Asian man was apprehended by border police. They found him hiding aboard a large goods vessel. Oh my, so he stowed away to get here. He had no papers to identify him, no passport, and he was suffering from amnesia too. Other than the fact he was clearly of Eastern descent, there were no clues as to who he was. So I decided to assign him to Lord von Zeke's, that way I could keep an eye on him. But then, why the mask? I didn't want to burden Lord von Zeke's with tiresome explanations as to why he had an Eastern apprentice. Because it would be so much easier to explain why he was wearing a mask. He's proving to be a great help to Lord von Zeke's. I have high hopes for his future. By the way, do you know where he's gone? No idea, but I believe he's left London for the time being. Oh. I take it you also didn't know that the man's father was one of the country's most infamous criminals, I mean. Genshin Asogi. What we learned from that trial 8 days ago was a huge shock. Finding out my friend's father was... Ah yes, Genshin Asogi. The professor case 10 years ago caused a great stir here in Britain. So there's still a lot of fuzziness around the edge of that. We have the dog and the fact that that is tied up with a case that Sholmes doesn't want us to know about and doesn't want Iris to print anything about. And also the fact that Scythe did not pronounce the Asogi Genshin dead after he had been hung, and then he climbed out of his grave after he was buried and was killed again by a gunshot from an unknown source. I still get the impression that his survival was part of a plan, and that something disrupted that plan. As in, somebody was there and made sure he was dead. So we'll see. And no one would have believed the culprit was a foreign student, invited to study here by the government. So the true identity of the killer couldn't be made public then, and can't be made public now. Nobody in your country knows it was him. and neither do the citizens of London. The main motivation was to avoid aggravating relations between our two nations at the time, I understand. Correct. However, it has to be noted that there were some supporters of the professor's apparent cause. What? Supporters of a mass murderer? The majority of the man's victims were a blight on the aristocracy of the day. Somewhat ironically, their deaths actually benefited society as a whole. Or so a fair few thinkers in London believed, anyway. Right, I see. But it was still murder, wasn't it? It seems very similar, doesn't it? To the idea of the Reaper of the Bailey. Ding-a-ling-a-ling. Here's my guest now, my latest client with money to spend. I do hope it's an exciting case, Hurley. Remember, Iris, we are at present gripped by the greatest problem known to man. I must be willing to accept any case, no matter how unstimulating. Save locating a runaway, of course. Don't spare anyone's feelings, will you? Dear, I'm afraid that Hurley can lack a little tact, especially just before the rent is due. Whack. Oh, it's one of the jurors from the last trial. Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, please, oh please. Please find my husband. He's run away. To upset me? I beg your pardon? Never mind. A personal matter. My apologies. It's very much a, oh, so that's the way it's going to be, God. All right. Game on. What exactly are you trying to say, Mr. Naruhodo? I didn't say a word. Come, my dear madam, be seated. Iris, some tea, if you please. Of course. What's the matter, Miss Susato? It's just that gentlewoman... I feel sure I've seen her somewhere before. Very recently. I can't remember if the last time they referenced this was in the first game or not. I think it was. Where they called out when they saw like another character's model in just a different bit of clothing was used again in the jury. So there was the old man who slipped and fell on the ice in the first case for Mr. Natsume. And then that same guy showed up later as a surgeon. Like, different person, apparently. Now that you mention it, as I explained earlier, my name is Evie Vigil. I don't know. Usually the names are puns in these cases. I implore you to take the case, sir. Money is no object. Simply name your figure. Money and wealth are of little consequence to me, madam. Being offered a case to solve is reward enough. Mr. Sholmes, you are the picture of benevolence. I will, of course, make a mental note of your offer, however, for contingent reasons. I trust you will remember your words also. If I might inquire, sir, this gentleman and lady would be... Oh, me? Kind of imagine Naruhodo getting that sort of semi-hunched over, slack-jawed, pointing at his own face. Me? What I am about to tell you, I should like to communicate in the strictest confidence, you understand. These are my friends. I assure you, you may say before this pair anything which you may say to me. I see. I can vouch for the gentleman personally, after all. He's hard of hearing. He's entirely trustworthy. He's unlikely to actually hear anything you say. Why did I ever get my hopes up? Forgive me for asking, Miss Vigil, but have we met somewhere before? Quite recently, perhaps? Oh my. Pshaw, my dear fellow, what is your intention? Clearly you have no ability to differentiate the facial features of the English. If you wish to invite the lady to tea, you must do so in a more gentlemanly fashion. Is it possible that you're the nice young lawyer from the trial I attended last week? Ah, I knew I recognized her. You have a man's fate in the palm of one's hands. Oh gosh, oh golly, it sends shivers down my spine. I didn't quite recognize her because she's acting so differently now. It must be very difficult for you as a lawyer, being hard of hearing, I mean. Pardon? Oh dear, I'm so sorry. Don't worry if you can't hear. It was frippery, really, nothing more. Now look what you've started, Mr. Sholmes. Thank you very much. I believe it would be prudent for you to sit quietly in the corner. Yes. Reinosuke sulks off to the corner. Tell us about your husband, madam. Yeah. Okay. So, he is Mr. Vigil. My daily is 40 years of age. Daily Vigil. And she is Eve Vigil. So, evening vigil. There's our pun. I have a photograph here. An entirely unremarkable gentleman, by appearance at least. How long have you been married? It will be 15 years this month. 15 years this year. We have a cordial relationship, and my husband's income is more than adequate, so we live quite comfortably. As it would appear, I need only look at you to know these things. Oh gosh. Your dress is the latest style, your hat clearly regularly groomed, and your eyes are animated. In short, you have no inkling as to why your husband might have disappeared, correct? That's right. He's a kind man with a strong sense of loyalty. He rather dotes on me. Which would point to the possibility that he has become embroiled in some incident or other. That is exactly what I fear must have happened, Mr. Sholmes. I'm quite beside myself. My husband's employment is somewhat unusual, you see. What if he's incurred some miscreant's ill will? What exactly is your husband's line of work? He's a warder for the prison. A guard? That is somewhat unusual. So, your husband is a prison warder? That's right, yes. Well, in actual fact, he's the chief warder. Indeed, I see. Well, chief prison warder certainly qualifies as something of a specialist occupation. Yes, it does indeed. My poor husband must prepare those dreadful punishments and see that they're carried out. Dreadful punishments? Does she mean capital punishments? And at such times he must occasionally spend a night or two in the prison dormitory. But for that extra responsibility, he is remunerated more handsomely than the other warders. Of course, we make no mention of my husband's work to the neighbors. Yes, I believe your prudence is justified. Tell me, at what prison is your husband engaged? Barclay Prison, Mr. Sholmes. Really? Barclay? Oh, a fine establishment. If I'm not mistaken, there is a large cemetery just behind it. So this guy is also potentially tied in with the professor case in some fashion. Yes, that's correct. Lowgate Cemetery. No. Lowgate Cemetery, the very place we were discussing in court. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable, my dear fellow, and yet undeniable. Sorry, Mr. Sholmes, I'm afraid you've lost me. Pay no heed, madam, pay no heed. A private matter. This can't really be a coincidence, can it? So, to the matter of your husband's disappearance, when did you realize he was missing? Please try not to laugh. It was yesterday. I'm sorry, yesterday? That really is recent, laughably so. The truth is, my husband does at times have occasion to spend the night away for his work. Not at all out of the ordinary for him not to return home at night, but this is different. For him not to make any contact for a whole day, that has certainly never happened before. My dear Daly, whatever can have happened? My dear Miss Vigil, please calm yourself. Now then, have you contacted the police? Why, naturally, but sadly, they refuse to listen to my pleas as my husband has only been missing for one day. I was asked to wait patiently at home. In truth, Miss Vigil, I concur with the police. However, let us not be hasty. I see no reason why we should not engage my deductive powers to track your husband down anyway. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. And furthermore, let me assure you, a chance to solve the greatest problem known to man for another month has no bearing on my decision. I seek only to put a sweet smile on another Londoner's face. That's really all there is to it. You have my eternal gratitude. I shall pay any sum you care to mention. You seek only to put this suite's rent in your landlady's purse. That's all there is to it. Thank you for everything you've shared with us, Miss Vigil. I believe I have all the information I need to begin my investigation. Please report to me soon with good news, sir. Fear not, madam. In a day or two, I shall be contacting you with a heartening report, I'm quite sure. So soon? How splendid, Mr. Sholmes. Good news should be delivered early, I always say. If you'd be so kind as to leave the photograph of your husband in my possession. A photographic print received from Miss Vigil in order to aid with locating her husband, her missing husband. He appears to have no particularly distinguishing facial features. Thank you. Now, allow me to show you to the door. I can't thank you enough, Mr. Sholmes. You've been simply marvelous. You know, I think it every time, Hurley. But how do you come up with such nonsense? Good news in a day or two, are you sure? I can't be sure, of course, but then I didn't swear on it. I merely gave the good woman some hope. I hope to be able to give her good news, one might say. After all, the rent must be paid by the end of the day tomorrow. If by that time I've successfully located Mr. Vigil, we shall be mutually relieved. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? Don't look at me with those pleading eyes. Well, my dear fellow, did you hear the details of the case? Yes, my hearing is surprisingly good, actually. Excellent. Then what did you make of it? Well, I was surprised to learn where her husband worked, at Barclay Prison, I mean. So you noted that. Of course, especially with the mention of Lowgate Cemetery. The rear of Barclay Prison, renowned among us students at the university for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned criminals. Barclay Prison, is that where that notorious man was incarcerated? Or is where that notorious man was? The professor. And now a warder from that prison has mysteriously disappeared, it would seem. It's all very peculiar. Indeed, but nothing you can't handle, I'm quite certain, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry. Run along to the prison and see what you can glean, would you? It's the prison governor you want. No doubt the man is equally worried. But aren't you going to go yourself? Surely you needn't ask. I can't possibly be seen out with this hair. But didn't you go to Lime Street with that hair? That was a quite different matter. So I leave it in your capable hands. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm rather busy. Of course you are. All right, we are going to stop there. And I'm going to start preparing for the next session. Get up, move around, set up the stream, that kind of goodness. It will hop you over to that stream in waiting. Give you an opportunity for a notify if you need to. But if you enjoyed this stream, Feel free to like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm suggest things to you. If you'd like to engage with the community further, then there are links to things like my Discord in the description. So again, I hope everybody enjoyed themselves, and I hope to see you for the subsequent I'm on Observation Duty 6 stream a little later. Otherwise, I hope the rest of your day is good.